Hey, good morning everybody and welcome to the Overnight Action Report. Taking a look at all the action happening overnight in Asia here on marketStream.live. My name is Joe Cusick with the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock. Let's jump right in. We're going to take a look at Japan. And Japan basically was flat this overnight, unchanged, not a lot of action. There was some interesting comments from the government basically saying that government pension funds could step in and build up their exposure to their interest rate assets or into short-term trading assets only because of the negative interest rates that continue to persist in the Japanese markets. That left the markets flat. Also, the government did come in and say that they could potentially start making some purchases in the interest rate markets only to basically keep off any volatility in the interest rate arena. Now, taking a look, you can see the major components of EWJ, which is the ETF that tracks the Japanese stock market. Pretty much a muted action overnight. EWJ looks to be opening today, maybe probably up a few pennies, but we'll see. But most likely flat at this juncture. Now, some of you might ask, well, what's the point of talking about all this before I go forward? And the reason why I want to bring this up is asset allocation is a very important part of, and a diverse asset allocation is a very important part of your trading methodology. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to bring up an example of a capital preservation asset model. And one thing that you're going to notice, you'll have exposure here to the bonds. You'll have exposure here to the S&Ps. Now again, this is very conservative, right? You want yield. Then if you scroll down, you're going to see what's called EFA. This is the All World Index. This is Europe, Australia, and the Far East. And the exposure on this in this model portfolio, and again, this is model portfolio, is 5%. So 5% of your very conservative portfolio is represented by these assets that we're talking about right now. And some of you might say, well, does that increase or decrease as you get more aggressive? It actually increases. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at a really active, or in other words, aggressive, as I scroll down looking at my models, if you look at an aggressive growth, you can actually go up and you'll see that the All World Index is coming in right at 20%. Okay, so that's why I wanted to talk more and more about these asset classes. They're very important. Now, let's take a look at EWJ technically. This is the ETF that tracks the Japanese stocks. You can currently see that it came off of hitting its high. It held the 20-day moving average. I always use this as the short-term trading moving average. That gives the short-term bulls the whether or not they're in control or not. The 50-day moving average comes in here right about around $50.60 on this ETF. It's challenging the highs right now, right around 51.68. So we're going to watch this action very closely. And when you start to hear that Japanese stocks are moving overnight, that's going to put some potential catalyst or pressure. We're going to look for a retest somewhere in this 51 to 50-50 level. That's where you're going to want to see buying interest come in if the bulls are going to continue to keep control in Japan. Now let's go back and take a look at what happened overnight in China. China was basically down about 0.3%. If we take a look here, you'll see that the Bank of China flat. You saw China Mobile. FXI right now trading up, but we'll see if that's going to hold into the open when this ETF that tracks the 30 largest large cap stocks in China. Muted action there again, not a lot of headlines, not a lot of big movement out of the major components of the Shanghai Composite, but still, while muted, need to keep an eye on it. As a matter of fact, if we actually go in and take a look at FXI, let's see how that is actually holding up technically. And again, you look at this, been straight up after a consolidation at 36.50 earlier this year. You continue to see basically since January, then February, boom, takes off. Now we're seeing new highs. Been really impressive. Next support's going to come in this area, or 37.50. That happens to be the 20-day moving average, and you see long midterm support at 36.50. This is the area that we want to see challenged if we're going to start to nibble on potentially getting into a break of 36.50 or that 50-day moving average. That would basically put me on hold as far as buying any more FXI. It would also make me reassess what's going on in China. Finally, taking a look at Hong Kong, if we want to stay in that region. Hong Kong basically finished the overnight session down about 0.4%. You could take a look at EWH. We'll see how that opens up this morning, the ETF that tracks that. But you're seeing a lot of the housing and property, as well as some of the financial institutions, a little bit muted to under pressure. So we're going to watch that very closely. Taking a look at EWH from a technical perspective. I'll do this right now. It's roughly the same picture as we've seen before. And I'm actually going to go back into my premium toolbox, and I'm going to go into real-time chart. Let's then jump finally into taking a look at India. India, again, had a decent overnight session, up just ever so slightly. EPI continues to move to the upside. We're going to watch that very closely. Again, when you look at it from a perspective of the technicals, and we'll just go into our real-time charts, you're going to see that the support is coming into play at right around that $22 level on EPI, as well as EWH on that. Let's see, EPI. And you can see over the last two sessions, boom, taken off, continues to challenge the upside. But we're going to watch this, see if this area in the $22.20, $22 range, if that gets retested over the next few sessions. All right, folks, that is it right now for the marketStream.live overnight action report. Join me at 8:30 Eastern time. I'm going to be talking about France, England, and Germany, taking a look at the European Open at 8:45 Eastern time here on marketStream.live. Have a great day.